you can't solely rely just on being really, really good at accounting in your job. Because you're going to hit a ceiling at some point, and you're going to be left in the mirror and there's a lot to take on here because we're talking about technology, your skills, but for me the key thing is that it is the soft skills.
Again, meaningful reports, like how you communicate, and then the level of content you have. I have seen so many companies where the finance guy, they have nice reports, but then you ask the production guys and they say, oh, the finance guy, they don't understand it. We have our own report and that's how we're going to do it.
Thank you for listening to the podcast thus far. 2024, big year ahead. The one favor I would ask, if you're enjoying what you're listening to, is to press the follow and subscribe button on whatever media platform you listen to us, as it helps us grow our network and grow the podcast. So thank you and enjoy the podcast today. Hi everyone, I'm Conor McHugh, founder of Alchemy Search, and joined today by Holger Schlechter. Holger is a strategic and hands-on finance professional with over 15 years of progressive experience encompassing all aspects of corporate finance, accounting, controlling, US GAAP, IFRS, German GAAP, and detailed restructuring and M&A expertise. Currently serving as the Chief Financial Officer at IFSA, Holger's career spans various leadership roles. Prior to his current position, he served as Director of Corporate Finance and Chief Financial Officer, PCT EMEA at Putzmeister Group in the Stuttgart area, Germany. Holger's expertise extends to Head of Corporate Finance at Putzmeister Holding, where he was responsible for group controlling, accounting, treasury, tax and consolidation. His journey also includes significant roles at KPMG Germany, KPMG US as Senior Manager and Manager respectively, focusing on international client reporting under IFRS and/or US GAAP. Holger holds a master's degree in economics from the University of Heidelberg, Germany, and is a certified public accountant licensed in Germany. Beyond his professional endeavors, he contributes as a member of the Federal Economic Senate since January 2024. So, Holger, how are you?
Very good, and thanks for the invite.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
So by the time this episode will be released, Germany will be the European football champions.
Hopefully it would be the right time after 2 tournaments where we really struggled. I think it would be fantastic to see that again.
Yeah.
But it's a long, long way to go.
Yeah, well, look, you guys are going pretty good so far. As we're recording this episode during the European Championships in Germany, have obviously started off very well. Obviously Ireland aren't there, but I guess you guys are looking pretty good to bring it back.
Absolutely, and I was able to see the first game in Munich.
How was it?
Beating Scotland 5-1.
For our Scottish listeners,
was good, and the whole atmosphere was amazing.
Yeah, the Tartan Army, they've got a good name for themselves now from enjoying themselves point of view.
Yeah, again, was fantastic. Now back in Dubai, back in business, and I still hope that Germany will proceed to the semifinals, maybe. That would be fantastic.
No, perfect. Well, look, I guess we're quite keen to... The purpose of today's chat is, as a very senior finance professional, is, gain as much knowledge, insights, for a lot of our listeners who are job seekers, and any tips for people from junior up to senior, but then also giving, people who are at mid-level now, maybe a finance manager, a controller, how do they get to the next level? So, how we're going to start about, good way for our audience to get to know you is, just tell us a bit about your journey and how you've, become CFO of IFSA.
So I started my career with KPMG. Yeah. Starting in public accounting, I think that's really something I can highly recommend because at the beginning the learning curve is really, really amazing. You get a lot of trainings, you get technical skills, you get soft skills, and maybe the most important thing is at the beginning of your career, you can get to know companies, different sizes, different natures. So you understand the business, different branches. Like that's, I think, very important for the mindset, and that helps later on.
And for you then, being in a big organization like KPMG, what sort of companies were you exposed to industry-wise? Was it quite a variance?
So, as you mentioned, I'm living close to Stuttgart, so one of our clients was Daimler.
Okay, yeah.
And that's one that's the biggest client in Stuttgart. But besides that, I had like different branches, like paper mills, like food and beverage industry. Then ThyssenKrupp, maybe well known. So that's metal industry. And again, all different kind of business, and you can compare how maybe one of the bigger groups, how do they deal with the business? How do they deal with the finance department? And you can see different approaches. And if you take them and then consider what is good and what is bad, and then like combine it, maybe that's something you can do later on in your career.
And then Germany has a stereotype of being very efficient, as a country. So was audit not very straightforward? Everything was very process driven, or was there, a lot of learning curves for you? Did you notice, because then obviously you went from KPMG Germany to KPMG US.
Yeah.
Did you find any massive differences, from auditing there?
Yeah, there is a big difference in auditing in the US and in Germany. But maybe to answer your first question, it's not perfect. Even if you expect from the bigger groups that they have set it up in a perfect way. Talking about these companies, they also have to change. And maybe we talk later about that. Like there are so many new technologies, you have new processes, the company is growing, and all that, or most of the time, you can see that the sales are growing, and it takes a while to adjust all your admin processes. And that's the time when the companies struggle. And then you have some audit findings, but also as KPMG, you could help them, support them, getting to the next level. With the audit approach, that being also with KPMG, it was a process-oriented audit, and that means you don't just look at the numbers, you try to understand the process from the very beginning. And again, if there is a problem in the process, you have to adjust the process, or at least you recommend to your client that they might gonna adjust the process to make it more efficient, easier, and more transparent.
And then US. So talk me through this. So what level were you at in KPMG when you transferred? How did you go about transferring? Was it a case, you just got asked and you didn't think twice, or how did that all come about?
Yeah, I got the offer, and it was the time where IFRS should have been implemented in the US, and they said it's gonna come in the next 2-3 years. So they sent somebody over from Europe with IFRS knowledge. And we all know how the story ended. So it never got implemented in the US. But that was like, again, a Daimler engagement. It was Daimler Trucks North America, located in Portland, Oregon. And they sent me there for technical skills, IFRS skills. And so for me, it was clear the way they do the audit is like more technical oriented. It's like you have to follow clear procedures. And I guess in Germany, it's a little bit different. It's like more like you try to identify the biggest risk and then maybe talk to people and work on these risks. Whereas in the US, you are just like strictly following the protocol.
And then, so how long were you in the US then for? You were there for
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
And then where was it then? Back to Germany?
Back to Germany, and that was not an easy step back. But I got an offer to work in Frankfurt for KPMG. It was an IT project. It was called, or it's an SAP IT audit project. So the whole idea was to automate the audit procedures, because like auditing is always about sample size. Assuming you take a sample size of 100 and you have a company that is producing like 100,000 invoices. What is a sample size of 100? There is no real audit evidence. So the idea was like to get to the next level of audit by automate the audit procedures, so you can look at all the invoices more or less and compare them and get some audit evidence out of that.
And then so you were there back in Frankfurt then for a few years, and then
just 1 year.
1 year,
and then it was just about time, and maybe that's
to
something.
Leave.
To leave. And so one of my clients, I think that's a typical
Common
step.
way,
one of my clients, they asked me if I want to join, and that was Putzmeister. You mentioned that, and so they asked me to join to take care of the consolidated accounts, and at the end, I was like a regional CFO there.
Oh, okay. So you were in Putzmeister then for a few years?
4 years.
And
4 years Putzmeister.
And then Dubai came calling, was it? Or?
No. So Putzmeister at that point of time was owned by a Chinese company, and that all started very well. And but after a couple of years, there were some different opinions on how to run the business, and so that ended up that they let go the entire management, and so I just finalized one year of financials, and after that I decided to leave to another German medium-sized company.
Okay, and then, so how did we end up here then in Dubai?
Yeah, it's like networking, and that's maybe also some recommendation for younger people is just like have a network, like talk to people, keep in touch with them, because I was again at that medium-sized company, also close to Stuttgart, and working in the US for a while, it was always in our mind, my wife and myself, we want to leave. And we said we're want to go somewhere else. So I was about to go to Indianapolis to sign a contract.
Okay, yeah.
And so Jochen called me, the CEO from IFRS here, and he used to work for Putzmeister.
Okay,
he called me and said, before you sign the contract, you come to Dubai. So next weekend I was flying into Dubai, was here for 2 days, and called my wife and said, let's do Dubai.
Good. Well, I guess the one point I really want to pick up on here is that it's having that global mobility, because when I chat to a lot of, there's a bit of a trend I'm noticing when we're speaking with a lot of, successful CFOs, be it male or female. Obviously, to get to Dubai, the vast majority of us are expats anyway, so that is a move. But always prior to that move, they've moved. You've lived in a few places in Germany. You went to America. You've obviously put yourself completely out of your comfort zone. Which I think is probably, you'll know better than me, maybe has excelled you in your career from a progression point of view.
Yeah, that out-of-the-box experience, I think that's important. And not only for your professional career, I think it's also for yourself.
Social,
If you go somewhere else, again, leaving
friends,
little,
family,
small Germany, leaving family, and then just like start in a new country with a foreign language.
Yeah.
And so all that is just like, is giving you something, and I just know a lot of people who, when you did it once, you always have the desire to go somewhere else again.
You have the itch to do it again. No, good. And then, what have been sort of some of the key lessons that you've learned, throughout your career so far?
A lot of lessons you learn, but the most important is that you are sitting in the driver's seat. Let's say it that way. How to describe that is, you should not drift away. It's just like you should make your own decisions. And as I mentioned, and maybe that describes it best, I really loved public accounting. Like that job was exactly what I want to do for a while. But then there was something like an inner voice telling me it's time to do something else and move on. And if you have that feeling, then you should put all the facts together and see what can be the next step. What are my strengths, and what can I do, and what do I want to do, and then just make a decision and move on. I know a lot of people, they got stuck, and then they are not able to make the decision and move on, and they complain a lot, and that's what I see.
We hear a lot of complainers in recruitment.
And that's why I'm saying, if you feel like that, and then maybe it's the right time, and then my recommendation is just like, do something else. Just listen to your inner voice. That always helps.
Yeah. So that's what you did when you went from Portland to Frankfurt. You're saying you went from doing technical IFRS sort of, but then to a technology project.
Yeah.
So it was different skill sets. You were sort of evolving all the time.
Yeah. Also, that is like always be open-minded. Just don't like. Again, if you like accounting and auditing, that's only one part, and later on we might going to talk about being a CFO. It's not about only number crunching, and the view is totally different. Being a CFO for a production company or a service company, you look forward. You need to find a solution. As an auditor, you just point and say that's wrong.
Yeah.
But having the solution, finding something how to deal with that problem, solve it, move on, and having a forward-looking mindset instead of just like auditing last year numbers. I think that's totally different.
And when did that change for you? So, if someone was listening to this now, their probably initial thoughts was, Holger, obviously very technically, it sounds like you really like technical accounting, auditing, which can sometimes be seen as an introverted individual who maybe mightn't be seen as a leader or, but then obviously post KPMG, it's clear, obviously you climbed the ladder, you went into very senior leadership, corporate finance roles. Yeah. So was there something always within you, or was there, did you need to work on your soft skills, your leadership skills, public speaking? As you said to me just before we started, you're IFSA constantly hosting events, so you're quite comfortable, speaking, building relationships, but someone would say, as I said, at the start of your career, it looked like you were very back office technical accounting. Yeah. So I guess the question I'm asking is, was it always within you to have that side of you, or like to be able to evolve, or was it something you had to work on?
It was at the end easier than expected.
Good.
Frankly speaking, I was a little bit scared when I started at Putzmeister, because I was like, okay,
you're on the other side of the desk now.
Yeah, no, exactly. You're on the other side, and I was like, okay, how will that work? But I was expecting it takes a while, but immediately after I started, I got involved in some business-related projects that are not like technical accounting projects, but like solve problems, just like why don't we make profit and all that. And I was really excited about that, and I found out that I can do that maybe even better than technical accounting, and it's much more fun. So I really enjoyed that, and I was able to work international, and that's something I really like. So with Putzmeister, more or less, I've seen the world. I was in South Africa, Brazil, and you have to deal with like business-related issues, but also with tax issues maybe. And if you can combine both, if you know the technical side and you can solve the business-related problem, then it's like really the next step.
And again, I know I keep going back to this, but again, this is just, I think for listeners, having that well-rounded culture exposure, because obviously I picked up on, working in America, where of course it's very multicultural, exposed to South Africa, China as well, I think at the end.
China, yeah.
Like, so, you're covering a lot of the globe there from, business and how people work. And, I think when we spoke offline, one of the appeals for IFSA and Dubai is how multicultural it is.
Absolutely.
I think you mentioned yesterday the 40 different nationalities within the business when you came in. I'm sure that's increased, but
it's now more than 50.
Yeah,
and I think that's really something important for a career. Not only work international, also to understand what does that mean. Yeah, and maybe I can come up with an example. Like when I was working for KPMG US, I got pulled into a project, restructuring project, and it was about to let people go, and how that works in the US, we all know it's like hire and fire.
Yeah.
And so then they said they're gonna do the same thing more or less in Japan. So they sent me to Japan.
Oh.
And in Japan,
it doesn't happen.
You cannot let people go. There is no rule. There are no laws and regulations for that. It's just like you let the people know that they are not needed anymore, and the next day they don't come anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's just an example. You have to understand the culture. You have to understand the business. Without that, you cannot be a good finance person.
Yeah. And I guess then the $1 million question, so again, for listeners who are trying to come to the region, I think flagging to the recruiter or to hiring managers that you are exposed to multiple cultures, countries, maybe that they might know about. But for you, what was the difference coming into UE? From a cultural perspective, business, like how have you settled? I think you're over here over a year now at this stage, a couple of years?
More than 2 years now.
2 years,
it's like time is running
by. Yeah. How's that been?
Again, because I really like work international. For me, it was easy to get adjusted, and it's more like 10 million people are living here. Like 80% of them are foreigners, expats. So that makes it even easier to get adjusted. Yeah. When you come to the US, I was the only guy in the KPMG Portland office from Germany. Yeah. So there was a different role than here. So here you have all kinds of nationalities, makes it for me easier. On the other hand, you also have to understand the different cultures, the way you work with them. Mm-hmm. Also leadership sometimes is difficult or different with different nationalities. You cannot approach like the Germans are very straightforward, direct, and sometimes that's not the right way to do it. And that's something I had to learn in the US. Sometimes the German way, I think it's still the most efficient way, but sometimes it can be very, very difficult.
No fluff.
Yeah,
no fluff. And then I guess we've picked up on the fact, you've obviously very strong with technology if you're going to do projects, but the $1 million question for, a lot of aspiring finance professionals, maybe they're newly qualified, recently qualified, mid-level, AI, around 12 months ago, every day it was just in our face with some sort of revolution that's happening. But how do you see, technology changing the finance landscape?
Yeah, that artificial intelligence will change the finance world, and it will not take 5 years. So I believe in the next 2 to 3 years, there will be so many changes. And what I always say is like, that train is leaving now, and you have to make the decision you want to be on it or not. Mm-hmm. And I think to be successful, you have to be on that. But on the other hand, what is artificial intelligence? Mm-hmm. And what will be the next step? When I talk to some people, I think they miss a little bit laying the ground to do all that. Because for me, the first step is you need to have your processes in order. You have to have consistent data. That means you have to look into your chart of accounts. How do you set up your bookkeeping? Some people just think like artificial intelligence means somebody's coming and solving all your problems. Yeah. That's not how it works. If you have inconsistent data, and at least with the artificial intelligence tool you have right now, it's just not going to solve your problem. It's but it's garbage in, garbage out. Yeah. And if you don't have consistent data, the tools you have right now will not help you. So that's why I always recommend that. One thing is like consistent data, sort out your just like straight and like make your processes stronger. Mm-hmm. That's something to lay the ground for the next steps. And the other thing is you have to educate and train your people. Because what does it mean? Like when I said finance will not be the same anymore in 3 years, that means just like posting an entry might not be important anymore. But still to have these analytical skills to understand if something is going wrong or maybe needs to be adjusted. That's something you need to train the people. If you don't train your people, then you will not get the benefit out of artificial intelligence.
And for you then, for example, without giving away any of your secrets, like how would you be training your staff today as opposed to 10 years ago when you were in Germany?
10 years ago, again, it was more about knowledge. Training, like IFRS training, means you need to know the standards, you need to know what's in there. Today, you can ask ChatGPT and say, summarize the whatever, standard 19, and then you get all the summary how to account for pension plans. Yeah. So there's maybe no need to know all these details anymore. But at the end, how to apply it, and also technical skills, how to work with these new tools. That's something we didn't do 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So the approach is really different. It's more like from doing things by yourself, like posting entries, into having analytical skills, understanding the difference. And that was always something I told my colleagues, the younger ones at KPMG also. You have to understand the numbers. What does it mean when there's a negative number or like there's negative income or whatever. What does that mean? Where is it coming from? You need to understand and need to explain it.
And then, so obviously, one word you keep mentioning is analytical. So, is that a skill set? If you were a younger Holger, let's just say you were just qualified or, still in KPMG, what would you be upskilling yourself on? If you could look into a crystal ball and say, this is the skill set that I'm really going to need that's going to get me my next job.
I think at that point of time, it was a combination of just, again, IFRS knowledge, just like foundation for everything to know that. But then being able to take these numbers and make recommendations to your client.
Yeah.
When you see the numbers, and again, what I mentioned earlier is just like pointing and say, that's wrong. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
But maybe understanding the business good enough that you can recommend how to do it better. I think that really makes the difference. And that's why your clients are paying you well.
Yeah.
When you just telling that it's wrong doesn't help them.
Yeah. And do you see then, obviously you've spanned through your career then, is there a common theme that you've seen in certain, maybe colleagues, or the reason why people aren't getting promoted? Obviously we get phone calls from candidates, and obviously if they ring us, there's usually a problem. They're never telling us how much they love their job. But is there sort of a common theme or trend you've sort of seen of, what is holding back someone? Is it because their soft skills aren't strong enough, or maybe they're not a team player, or, is there anything in particular you've picked up on?
The higher you get up in the ranks, the more important the soft skills are. And that's not a secret, but that's really important to understand. So some people are just not able to let go. So they are strong, like if you are strong in technical accounting skills, you always want to be involved. But if you, again, get promoted to the next level, you shouldn't do it by yourself. And to let go, a lot of people struggle.
Delegate.
And then they don't delegate. And the other thing I have seen a lot is one of, sometimes they call it superpowers, is to listen. A lot of leaders try just to explain to people what needs to be done. And that's maybe something during my career I found out. It's better to listen first. At the end, you need to make the decision as a leader. But don't try to tell the people how to do the work. Just like listen to them, learn, and then make your decision. And
was that something you had to learn yourself then? Was it occasion maybe a building point for yourself was to listen more?
Yeah, absolutely. I experienced that a lot with my bosses like over the last couple of years. And I was always like, if I'm in that position, I wouldn't do it. Just like listen to the people. That makes a difference. And try to understand the people. Because that's also something, if you want to be successful, or if you are not getting promoted, the question is, as you said, why? I think you need to have a strong team. Success is coming from the team, not from yourself. If you try to achieve everything by yourself, you're not going to be successful.
You're only strong as your weakest link, as they say.
And getting the right people on board, and that's something where we got there. We got there. That helped a lot to get the right people on board. And now at IFZA, we have a strong finance team. And that gives me the freedom to do other stuff.
Well, I think as if we were catching up, and you're saying now, like, obviously you went in there, it was nearly building something from the ground up. I think you built a very, very strong function. But again, the points I'm picking up on from yourself is that, a certain individual who's doing very well inside in it, and you're saying we want to release, delegate work to them, so it's going to free you up to other things. Where I think the point you're trying to get across is that for people who are coming up through the ranks, you have to let go. Not fully, but you can still hold one finger. But I think if you want to grow, and also to let your team grow, you need to be prepared to give up. Because even with Alchemy, I see it now. We've grown, and I've had to give things up, and it is a bit of a sink or swim situation. But I think for the business to grow, you need to do that.
But still, you need to be a role model. That means you need to understand your business. You have to develop your team, and the other one is, I call it encourage the heart. That means like getting the people engaged, that they really like what they do, that just like brings them to the extra mile, and that makes the difference.
Yeah.
Because as it is in soccer, we talked about this. Winning a game is not about being like 200% better. Sometimes it's the last 2-3% that makes the difference.
Yeah.
And that's what I always try to tell my team. We want to be a first-class finance department. What does that mean? Is not that we just like a rocket go to the sky. It's a long way. It's a step by step, getting better every day a little bit.
Yeah.
That makes you successful. And with that mindset, that makes the difference. If you get the people in that attitude and mindset, that can be a real success factor.
Oh, definitely. And then another thing we picked up on there was IFRS.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on this? What impact is it having these days?
Especially here in the UAE, it's a unique situation, let's call it that way. So IFRS has been implemented around 2005 in Europe. Very important reporting, international and all that. Here, IFRS is not only a reporting tool, it's also the basis for your net income, for your tax calculation.
Yeah.
And I listen to a lot of discussion about all the new tax rules and what needs to be done and whatever. But I have barely seen any discussions about what does it mean. And if you look at the possibilities you have with IFRS accounting rules, there's a huge opportunity to do things within these rules. And there's no discussion about that. So I was wondering, for the future, I think we need to have here in the UAE stronger people with IFRS knowledge.
And is that for in your business space where obviously so many international companies coming in there, and is that where you have the need for strong IFRS people that can relate to their accounts?
For sure for the international ones, but most of the time the international ones are already pretty good. They have all their frameworks for IFRS and all the rules and regulations set up.
Yep.
But for the medium-sized company, local companies, or again for like international companies with not that great background in IFRS, I think there's a big need, because you need to be able to play that game. Like IFRS, there's so many things you need to understand, and if you fully understand it, it can be a big advantage for you. For
accountants, job seekers, brushing up, and how does one brush up in IFRS? Is it just a case they need to be going online, studying the different ones, or how would one do this?
Yeah, there are many courses out there, but again, the best thing is if you are based in Europe right now, I think the IFRS skills of coming from the big fours, they are on a different level than you are here right now.
Okay.
So I expect somebody coming from Europe, they have already the knowledge they need. If they come here, they can add value to the medium-sized companies to prepare the financials. Okay. Because again, you have to prepare financials under IFRS.
Yeah.
And more or less, it's like the version for small and medium-sized entities. But if you look at the notes, for example, there's no clear definition how that looks like. And that's really, there is a big gap. If that further develops and you need to get your accounts audited, you need to have people who really have a good knowledge in this area.
Yeah. What qualities do you look for, when building your finance team? IFRS helps?
No, and that maybe makes the difference. Like for me, it's clear. So that's why we work with you guys. Yeah. When you send candidates, my expectation is that all these technical skills they are there, and you sort it out already.
Yeah.
For me, the much more important part is the soft skills side. So to build a team, for me, you need to have trust in the people. They need to have the right attitude. And without trust, how can you build up a team? If there's no trust, it always ends up in micromanagement. Yeah. As I said, you have to do everything by yourself. You need to have controls in place and all that. If I trust people, I just let go and delegate the task to them. So that means if somebody comes and maybe a little bit of a lack of IFRS knowledge, I can train him. But if his mindset is not the right one, that's something different. That's hard to change. It's so much harder to change people's personality than changing their IFRS technical skills.
And then, from your side, did you ever have a mentor or a leader, for example, that you looked up to, or someone that sort of gave you a bit of navigation throughout your career?
Yeah, sure. You need that, and I think that's also something important when you pick your next workplace. Like having somebody who is promoting you, is helping you to the next level. And I had that with Putzmeister when I started there. The CEO of Putzmeister, I somehow had a really, really good relationship, and I learned a lot.
And was that just the case, he took you under his wing, or did you formally say, look, can you help me out here? Or was it just a natural, he was doing his helping you out?
We just ran into each other the first day, and he found out that I have certain skills and I have the right attitude. And so he just he trusted me, and he gave me some projects I've never done before, but I was still able to get it done.
Again, this goes back to the point where you were asked to do something, you just went for it. That's all. You didn't say, "Oh, I can't do this. I'm actually okay. I'm going to leave it." But you just said, "Okay, this is a new challenge," and you went for it.
Absolutely, and maybe that's something very important.
No, and again, and the reason why I'm flagging this is that because the conversations we're having is that it's just a consistent theme where when someone gets asked something, provided it's not ludicrous, out of the skill set, they're taking it on, and obviously, I think that's getting the trust from the CEO or whoever is your manager at the time, because it's just a common theme where if you can be seen as a bit of a fixer, per se, where the management say, Holger can sort that out, no problem. You're going to be the first name they think of. I think, it's obviously case in point.
You need to, just again, the mindset needs to be like that. If you are afraid because you don't know 100% about a problem, or if you don't know the solution 100%, maybe that's exactly what scares people to work on it. And sometimes in business, what I learned is 80-20 rule. Sometimes the 80% solution is much better than waiting for the 100% right solution.
And for you then now as a leader, is that something you look out for? If you come across someone within the business organization that has that attitude, does it stand out to you? You can pick up on these things?
Yeah.
Because a lot of, finance people, they can be quite risk adverse for the most part sometimes. And even we have a lot of tax listeners who again are risk adverse individuals for the most part. I think it's just trying to change the mindset where, to be a bit more, not taking ethical risks or anything like that, but, risk workload to develop.
If you, again, if you try to work out the 100% right solution, I think that's it's too much. Don't try that.
Especially in UAE.
Yeah. Also in Europe sometimes. But just coming back to the attitude of finance people, when I assess a finance department, I always look at what level are they at. For me, you have more or less 3 stages. One is being a finance reporter. Just number cruncher. Then the other one is business supporter. And the third step is, or the last step is being a business challenger. What does that mean? At the end, what I said is you can just generate numbers, you throw it at the other department and say good luck. That doesn't help anyone. And that's not how I see finance. The next step is you generate meaningful reports that is at least pointing to the problem, and you work with the other departments. What is necessary for that is that you have a deep understanding of the business. And that's what I learned when I just again, changed my role from being a public accountant to working in a production company. You have to understand the product. You have to understand the business. You have to understand where you do the business. How do you do the business? Is it direct? Is it with partners? Is it with dealers? If you don't understand that, you cannot help the business to grow as a finance person. Because the last step is then, as I said, business challenger. And that means you reach out to the production, and maybe they don't like you for that, but you reach out to them and say, look, based on my analysis, we can do that and that better. What do you think? Let's work together to find it out. And that makes a company successful.
Yeah, I think that's the big point. I would say it is about being a finance business partner. Because obviously when you make the move from practice or consulting into industry roles where you need to appreciate that you're not going to be surrounded by accountants.
Yeah.
You know, you need to be able to get up out of your desk, as you said, challenge someone in a right manner. But it goes back to the bigger point is developing soft skills. Because if you're chasing a sales guy, and sales guys can be usually a bit more aggressive in their how they go about it, if you can't build a relationship with that person, you're not going to get the information out of them. So I think it's developing, and it's just simple things, you know, going to events, you know, even more so in Europe, but going for a beer after work sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even here in Dubai, maybe going for shisha after work or whatever it is.
Playing a round of golf.
Playing a round of golf. You know, it's 4 hours you can't get away. So I think these are the points we're trying to get across to, you know, our listeners, that you can't solely rely just on being really, really good at accounting in your job. Because you're going to hit a ceiling at some point, and you're going to be left in the mirror. And there's a lot to take on here, because we're talking about technology, your skills, but for me, the key thing is that it is the soft skills.
And again, meaningful reports, like how you communicate, and then the level of content you have. I have seen so many companies where the finance guy, they have nice reports, but then you ask the production guys and they say, oh, the finance guy, they don't understand it. We have our own report, and that's how we're going to do it. And that's exactly what you see. So it's double work, and it's just like, it's not going to help the company. So that's why I say you need to understand that. And if the other departments understand that you can help them to be better, then they accept you. And after a while, it turns around, they call you and say, we have a problem here. Can you help us? And that's the point where you realize then you have the right finance department.
Yeah. I think, then for the listeners today, it's just try and build those relationships, you know, around the business, because if you can change the mindset of your colleagues in different departments, then it's going to make your life easier. You're going to have a better rapport, and ultimately it's going to make, you know, management take more notice of you, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. And then I guess, you know, we've covered a bit of this, but it's really for job seekers, aspiring CFOs, you know, what's your big advice?
Laying the ground with the technical skills. I think that's, you have to do it at the beginning, for sure. Then the soft skill side, as I said, listening to your people. Good
listener. Your wife has got this. You're a good listener for your wife?
Ask her. No, let's keep with the professional side of that. No, and being able to build a team. And really understand what does it mean to build a team. You need to be able to keep talents. Again, you need to listen to them. You need to make them grow, develop your team. If you do that, they will help you to grow. If you just try by yourself, you're going to fail.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is just picking up the team. And I guess it's motivating them as well, because you know how do you go about motivating? Is that a skill you've developed over time? Because I imagine, given the finance functions that you've had to lead, you know, there's always going to be people overperforming, but there's also going to be people underperforming. And how do you go about trying to tackle this? Obviously, it's case by case, because people can be motivated in different ways. But you know, is there any sort of magic formula for this, or how do you go about it?
No, there's no magic about it. But if you have a finance team that is bigger than 100 people, then it's really, really difficult. The one thing you should not do is accept underperformers without any consequences. I know that sounds maybe not right, but again, and maybe start with the underperformers. My approach is always, if somebody is not doing his job, there's a reason behind. So you need to understand that reason. You give him options, you give him coaching, you give him training. And if he then still is not able to to perform, then it's maybe better for him to do something else.
Yeah.
Because people want to be successful. Nobody likes the position of being the underperformer. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't make you happy. So I think, again, you have to develop these people, give them the chance. And if not, there's always a good position maybe in the same company. Don't let the people go, although it's better for you guys. But no, it's really keep them. And maybe I've seen people, they worked in just like the wrong department. And they just like changed, and all of a sudden, they were one of the high performers.
Okay, good.
It can happen. So again, you need to monitor your team. You need to see the potentials in the team. And then you need to look at the attitude of the people. There are some people, they don't want to climb up the ladder of the career. They're just happy with what they do. Yeah. And you need these kind of people.
Yeah, of course.
You need to keep them, because these are the people, day-to-day business is the only way they run the business.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there are others, they are eager to climb up. Some of them maybe too fast.
Yeah.
You need to talk to them what it needs to come to the next step. Mm-hmm. So what you see, it's not like there's no magic rule. There's no one size fits all. Like, it's really knowing the people, understanding where are their limitations, where is their best spot, mm-hmm. and then make sure that they are in this spot, because then again they help to grow the team and the entire company. So, but that means talk to people, understand them, and sometimes it's not only problems in business. Sometimes it's really like they have in private life some problems, whatever it is, and you need to understand that also. And there's always solutions, and help them getting over that. And all in the sudden, underperformer is doing well again.
And then remote working. Then, again, my view on it is that, especially for younger generation, is that I don't know how you expect to flourish in your professional career if you don't know anyone within the organization. If you work in a big company, how do you expect to climb the ladder if you're sat in front of a laptop 7 hours a day?
I know working from home is a big discussion. Yeah. I grew up like that. For me, it's easy. With KPMG, it was like from the very beginning, and it's a long time ago. Yeah. Nobody knows what work-life balance is, or working from home when I started my career. But I started to work in that way from the very beginning. It was just like getting the job done was important. Nobody cares if you do it 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the evening. If you get your job done, the next day it needs to be done. Yeah. So that's easy. But if you are not used to that, working from home is a challenge, because there's always something else you can do. Yeah, of course. And if you are young, when I was a manager in Germany with KPMG, and people started and they said, I want to work from home, I asked them, how do you want to do that? Yeah. You don't know what to do. So tell me, how are you doing that? Maybe that's the right question. Yeah. Not saying just no, you are not allowed to do it, because then they don't like it. But if you make them understand that it doesn't make sense. Yeah. For the first 6 months or 12 months, it doesn't make sense. And it's not only for the new joiners. I remember when I started in my second job there in Stuttgart, it was just 1 year before Corona started. Yeah. And for me, it was the first year was so important, get to know each other, all the people, the other departments, and it was worldwide. After that, it was easy for me to work from home, but the first couple of months, it would have been a disaster not to know the people in person. Yeah.
I think, I always come back to very simply is that, would you like to have been homeschooled all your life? Yeah. Some of the best friends you have in life are through school, but also through work. So, I think flexibility, there has to be an element of fairness, but I think we're noticing a lot more candidates coming into the market and saying, I want remote. I'm like, why would anyone do that? You're an expat here. And companies, especially local companies, they don't view it like that. Why should they bring you in here, pay you a high salary, when they could just remotely get someone else in another part of the world for a fraction of the cost?
For me, it's clear you need clear rules. You need to understand what it means, and you have to train the people. Yeah. If they know, then again, maybe 1 or 2 days working from home, no problem at all. On the other hand, maybe I'm a little bit old school. From a company culture perspective, I like to meet the people.
Yeah, exactly,
I like to have a coffee with them, have a chat, and go out for lunch. I think that makes a difference.
It makes a massive difference. And these are the things which they're incremental gains, which over a period of time it builds a relationship. So, no, good. Well, look, Holger, we'll get on to a bit of a lighter side to really get to know you before we close up. So, what's the one bucket list that you still want to accomplish in your life?
Yeah, that's
maybe the final for the World Cup if Germany get there in a few weeks, or the European Cup.
No, golf handicap, single number. No, no, for sure. I'm at the age where you've just like a lot of people talk about retirement and stuff like that. I'm not that kind of a guy.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just like what I feel like maybe is something doing supervisory board work. Yeah. Something like that. That would be very interesting for me as a next step. Not today, not tomorrow, but at one point of time, because I just cannot believe that I want to stay at home all day. Yeah. Although I like to golf, but that's gonna be boring after maybe 6 months also. Yeah. Yeah. So again, for me, the next step would be something like supervisory board level work, and like with IFTA, if we achieve what we want to do, like being a really global big player, if we have like free zones all over the world, that's something I would enjoy to do.
Good. And
further on.
Well, I guess let's talk then down the line. You still got your hair in place. You're not an old person yet. You're far from it. But down the line, if you could take a year off, is there anyone in the world in particular you'd like to go to, and why?
So the best place in the world to live is Portland, Oregon. Yeah. So again, we lived there for 3 years. The Pacific Northwest is
it's Northwest. It's just for the listeners, so it's nearly borders with it's in Washington State.
No, it's like,
Oregon State.
Oregon, but it's Seattle.
Yes,
everyone knows Seattle, so it's like an hour, 45 minutes flight from Seattle. Pacific Northwest is amazing. The nature there, you can go hiking, you can go skiing, you can golf.
Do it all.
The coast is really near, and it's. They have a lot of breweries there, so that also
it's ticking all the boxes.
Germany is like almost like paradise.
So Portland then one day, and then finally, so if you weren't in finance, if you weren't that guy in KPMG all those years ago that loved technical accounting and all that good stuff, what career path might you've chosen? Bar obviously golfer / footballer.
Yeah. If I wouldn't have been that lazy at school, being an engineer would be something that I would enjoy. I like when you see to build these machines like at Putzmeister, concrete pumps or other technical products, to understand that and be able to fix these kind of things. Yeah, that would, I guess that would be something I would have enjoyed also.
I think you've ended up okay in the end, I think.
Yeah, but it's okay like it is.
Well, look, Holger, Dankeschön. So, I just want to say thank you very much for coming in today. I think it's been a great chat. And I look forward to following the journey and hopefully have a beer with you in Portland one day.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again for having me. And I'm looking forward to meet you soon again.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.